This podcast is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional, medical, or any other type of advice. As a listener, you must use your own judgment and interpretation when applying the content of this podcast. Hey. Welcome, everyone, to Boldly Authentic with Cynthia Fontaine. I am Cynthia Fontaine, and I am always thrilled to be here with you wherever you are listening in the world today. Oh, here we are, episode 6. I can't believe that it's going by so quickly already. We have talked about a lot of things to do with intuition, to do with personality profiles. And if you go back all the way to episode 1 and listen through, you'll find that there's a thread that carries through from each episode to the next. My hope is that you will start to build, as you listen to each episode, an understanding of my signature program is called Your Secret Intuition Code. I also call it Your Secret Life Code because it is both. All of the things that I talk about fit into your secret life code or your secret intuition code. The profiles, the chakras, your spirit guides, which I haven't really talked about too much yet. Also, your archetypes. Each one of us have many archetypal personalities. So I want to talk today a little bit about something that's a little more woo than the last session. The last session, I talked a lot about personality profiles, and I use the personality profiles in my work all the time because it is such an important clue for you to really know who you are. And when you live your life on purpose, through your primary profile, you will feel like you are having a wonderful life, even when things aren't going so great. I promise you this. Most of us live through a secondary profile or a defensive profile. And when we find ourselves that we feel like our life didn't turn out the way we thought it was going to, when we find ourselves in patterns of unhappiness, whether it's career or family, business, etc., relationships, we have to go back and look what profile you're living through. And if you are actually living through your true main profile. Most people are not. And that's why I talk about it a lot, because it's so important for you to learn what your profile is, your primary, your secondary, and your defensive. And then you can start to work with understanding when you fall into your defensive profile, when you fall back into your secondary profile, and also start to notice when are you living through your primary profile. For me, myself, I'm a charismatic leader first, team player second. My charismatic leader and team player are almost equal, and that can get tricky because your secondary profile has to support the needs and the wants of your primary profile and how you deliver your life. When I allow the team player to move ahead of the charismatic leader and let the team player be in charge of the show, it never goes that well. When I allow the team player, you know what a team player is. They're the ones who are at the sidelines of the games, who are there every game cheering on, right? Whether they win, lose, doesn't matter if you're winning or you're losing, they are on the sidelines cheering you on. They are the ones who want to know, what can I do for you? They will never step in and do something without asking you first, because they don't want to be wrong and they want to be on the team. They never want to be cut from the team. Super, super important to know. Team players also are the ones that tend to get burned out when they feel like they are not appreciated, and they will want to go off and live in the woods. So if this sounds like you might have a high level of team player. You probably live a lot in team player, even though it might not be your main profile. Okay, the charismatic leader, as I said in episode 5, when you were growing up, you might have gotten into fights. Right. Charismatic leader needs something to stand for. It needs a mission to champion for. That's the best thing for a charismatic leader, is to find a mission and go for it. Knowledgeable achievers, you were going to be the ones in school who were very studious. You studied, you wanted to master something. You probably took 4 or 5 years of French or Spanish or Italian. If you played an instrument, you probably stayed with one instrument and you went through all of your school years playing that instrument and maybe even into college. Creative idealist, you were lost in the clouds. Your teacher might have been like, Johnny or Evelyn, are you paying attention? Emotional intelligence specialist, you just wanted to, when somebody was upset, you just wanted to go and hold their hand or tell them it was going to be okay. When somebody on the playground fell, maybe you wanted to put your arm around them or take them to the nurse. That would have been you if you were having a strong emotional intelligence specialist profile. Emotional intelligence specialists often will connect and marry charismatic leaders, but they sometimes pick the charismatic leader narcissist. Yes, the charismatic leaders can be narcissists. So you probably have somebody in mind who you might say, oh, I know somebody who's a narcissist. For sure, they're a charismatic leader. So an emotional intelligence specialist may pick narcissistic partners. And it depends on your growing up, your background. We all will get into relationships, especially early on, until we start doing some personal development work, maybe some counseling and things like that. We will get into relationships with the personality of the parent where we have the biggest wound. So I don't want to talk too much about that today, but I just wanted to give you a little bit more about the profile so you can start thinking about where you fit into them and what your profile may be. Okay. And again, I did mention, go to my website, CynthiaFontaine.com. The link is right there on my resources. The book that you want to get to really go more into depth on this is Discover Your Purpose, The Life Purpose Profiles by Rhys Thomas. So you don't have to go searching for it. It's right there. Okay, so another thing I want to add, another layer to your secret intuition code program is spirit guides. We all have them. It's one of the biggest questions that I get is, well, do we all have spirit guides? Because I don't think I have spirit guides. I don't know if I have spirit guides. Do I have a spirit guide? Yes, you do. We all have spirit guides. And you will find that sometimes I use spirit guides and the word angels interchangeably, though people would argue with me on that because angels have never incarnated into a human body. Spirit guides have lived physical lifetimes, and they agree when we're on the other side. This is my understanding, my theory, my perception in all the years that I've been working in the spirit world, which I channeled my first message 40 years ago, is we sit down with our team. Guess who our team is? It's our spirit guides who are going to come in with us in this lifetime. Each lifetime, we will have different guides. Sometimes guides will come with us in multiple lifetimes, and they're not usually our family. on the earth or whatever, wherever we might happen to be having a lifetime, because I truly believe that in the vast cosmos, there has to be other opportunities out there to live different lives and have different experiences. That's my own opinion. If you want to go look at the James Webb Telescope pictures, you might think that way too. I don't know. Just me. So your spirit guides sit down with you on the other side before you decide to drop in to your mother's womb. And they go, okay, what do you want to do in this lifetime? And we pick the guides that are best equipped to help us accomplish our mission. Sometimes we've had multiple lifetimes with these guides, and sometimes we have been a guide for others when they have lived a physical lifetime. And we have agreed to be their guide because we have the expertise in whatever area that they want to work on in any given lifetime. It's interesting because your spirit guide, for example, for your fifth chakra is not active when you're first born, and your sixth chakra or your heart chakra, because as a baby, if you think about when a baby's born, right, they need 100% full care. They can't even roll themselves over. And so as a baby starts to develop, their chakras start to develop as well. So you come in with your first chakra is your foundation. It's your grounding to the earth. If you had a difficult birth, or if there was problems in utero, then you may find in your life you don't feel grounded or feel stable or comfortable here on the planet. Also, and this is a little interesting thing, if that fits you, you most likely are also highly creative idealist. Creative idealists often have their first wound in utero to birth. So it'll be a premature birth, it'll be a traumatic birth, or there could be problems in utero. As the baby forms and develops, when the baby can then sit up, the second chakra is beginning to develop. Your first chakra intact, grounded to the earth. Your spirit guide is there with you. Then as your second chakra comes in and starts to develop and you're able to sit, then your second spirit guide, your second chakra guide becomes more available. And as each chakra begins to develop and open, well, I say open, but sometimes chakras don't open until you have an epiphany. Well, they open and close automatically, but you might, for example, be closed-minded about things as you get older. And so your sixth chakra will shut down. So 0 through 12 is when the chakra systems develop. And so by the time you're 12, your chakras are operational, they're opening, they're closing, your spirit guides are all in place and ready to go. And then it's just a matter of you learning to work with them, ask for their help, etc. The main difference between angels and spirit guides, besides an angel not having a physical lifetime, is that an angel can intercede on your behalf if you are in a dangerous situation that will take you off the planet and it's not your time to go. A spirit guide cannot intervene. A spirit guide cannot help you unless you ask for their help. So that's a really big distinction there. Typically, people that choose more difficult lives might have extra guides. We also come in with, I believe, guardian angels. I used to see that most people had one guardian angel, but now I've seen as many as 3 or 4 where they may cycle in and out, again, depending on what the person is working on in their life at that given time. And, you know, you have your main guardian angel, but then you have these other angels that can sort of cycle in and out. And they may have a guardian level sort of initials at the end of their name. I'm going to say, being a little funny here. Even if they might not be your main guardian angel that you came in with, there will be others that can step in for your intercession. And then there's all levels of angels and guides and so forth. And in a future show soon, I'm going to have a wonderful guest on who loves to talk about angels and is a certified angel practitioner. Be on the lookout for that show because that will be coming up really soon. I'm excited about that. I do have some other great guests lined up that I can't wait to share with you. But before I started bringing guests on, I wanted to give you sort of a foundation in my work and an understanding so that as we move into other shows, you'll have a foundation and understanding because I will be asking guests questions around things that are related not only to my work, but their work as well. I feel super lucky to have chosen the family that I chose to be born into. I didn't always feel that way because my relationship with my mother was very difficult. And my dad was an alcoholic. My immediate family household growing up in was difficult. My grandmother, however, my mother's mother, is where my joy lived. And she instilled in me such a beautiful faith and belief in angels and spirit helpers that it carried me through some extremely difficult experiences and situations in my life. So I encourage you, whether you believe in God or something bigger than you, think about that you may have spirit helpers. And when you think about it this way, if you believe that when our body dies, we don't just disappear, when you think about that, then there has to be a lot of spirit in the universe, right? Because, I mean, there's 8 billion people on the planet now? And if each one of those 8 billion people has a spirit that continues on somewhere out in the cosmos after they leave the physical body, there's a pretty good possibility that there's a lot of help in the spirit world. Just saying. Now, I was brought up Catholic and I loved going to church. I would race to CCD, which they called at the time catechism, and then I would race down to the church. And I had a wonderful childhood experience in church until my parents were getting divorced. And that's when I learned that religion is flawed. Why? Because it's man-made, right? So I started searching for bigger answers. I started exploring other religions. And what I discovered is when you break any religion down to the very basic tenets, they're all the same. The Four Agreements, the book by Don Miguel Ruiz, as far as I'm concerned, is the only text we need. It's the only direction we need. And if you want to break it down even simpler, then treat others good and go home. It can be that simple. But we're humans. We're more complicated than that. Our hurt feelings and wounded self gets in the way and our ego and so forth. And I had not planned on talking about this today, but I fully trust that Spirit guides me in the direction when the microphone is on that you all need to hear. Another question that I get asked often is, if I have spirit guides, how do I know they're there? How do I work with them? Well, first, you can trust that they are there. And the easiest thing to start working with them is to call them in and ask them to join you. You could invite them in to meditation. If you don't meditate, I highly recommend that you get on the fast track and start a regular meditation practice. And I often say that a good 3-minute meditation is so much better than a crappy 20-minute meditation. So don't let time be your excuse not to meditate. Also, people say, well, I can't meditate because my mind never stops thinking. Guess what? Your mind is always going to have thoughts. It's the space between the thoughts is when the magic from spirit can drop in. So you're looking for the gap between the thoughts. You can also use reflection as a meditation. I have a friend who has a morning reflection when she's having her coffee. She will have a journal or a notebook with her, and she just sits and listens to the birds, has her coffee, she'll pull an oracle card, and she just reflects. Now, that can be a meditation on its own. It doesn't, again, have to be complicated. We make it too complicated and we think it has to be a certain way. It doesn't have to be a certain way. There is no right way to meditate. So don't think that you have to do it a certain way. You have to do it a certain amount of time. No. It doesn't have to be that way. Your spirit guides do like for you sort of to make an appointment because they might be off doing something else at any given time. They're not glued to your side 24 hours a day. So it's a nice idea for you to say, hey, I'm going to be having coffee at 7 a.m. I would like for you to join me. And have a notebook and a pencil or pen ready and just jot down any thoughts that come to mind while you are enjoying your coffee. You may find that a sudden idea just pops into your head. You may get a solution to a problem you've been trying to figure out. You may have the inspiration to call a friend you haven't talked to in a while. And when you call that friend, they may say something that really touches your heart or gives you an answer to a problem that you have been searching for an answer for. So spirit guides, because they don't have a physical body, they don't have a vocal box, a voice box, they don't sit across the table from us and chat, having coffee. Now, you can develop learning how to communicate with your spirit guides and actually hear them. That is an advanced psychic development thing, really. If you were born highly sensitive, empathic, intuitive, psychic, you probably have been hearing spirit all around you from the time you were a little kid, and it might have freaked you out. Another way you can communicate with your guides, your team, is using oracle cards. I prefer oracle cards over tarot cards for that because they work in a different way. And there are some oracle decks that I really like for communicating with my spirit guides. One in particular is Colette Baron Reed's deck, Wisdom of the Oracle. And it is super helpful for people who have a hard time getting out of your linear mind. If this is you, if you are very left-brained, if you're logical, it may be difficult for you to imagine yourself sitting at the table having coffee with a spirit person who you can't see, touch, or feel. So you might choose to use oracle cards to communicate with your guides. That's a great way to start. You could also use a pendulum or a dowsing rod to communicate with your guides, where you can learn how to get yes/no answers, and you could ask your guides questions. And once you get proficient and accurate with a pendulum or with a dowsing rod, you can then be confident in asking questions of your guides and getting yes/no answers. I do caution you here, however, to be sure that you don't get into the habit of going to the pendulum or going to an oracle deck or the dowsing rod to ask the same question over and over again, hoping to get a different answer. That can become oracle abuse. And if you're someone who has maybe had difficulty setting healthy boundaries in your life, you might be more prone to falling into the habit of asking the questions repetitively over and over again. I go into depth about ethics in my classes. If you are interested in learning more, sign up for my newsletter. Go to my website, CynthiaFontaine.com, and subscribe to my newsletter, and you will get great helpful tidbits once a week, an email. Also get updated on what's going on in my world, where you can connect with me. By subscribing to my newsletter, you will get updated on what's going on in my world, what classes are coming up, and so forth. And we will never spam you, because I really dislike getting spam in my email box. My team and I are really diligent about that. Another way you can ask for your spirit guides to help you are for them to send you signs. And when you go back to my earlier podcast in this series, you will find the story of the hawk and how my guides were being kind of funny with that. So you can ask for specific signs when you are looking for guidance on a particular issue that's going on in your life. You can use it for anything from asking for guidance on buying a particular car. If you are looking to go back to school, you can ask for a sign about that. You can ask for signs for just about anything. Again, you don't want to get in the habit, though, of becoming dependent on something outside of you in making your own decisions. So don't give your power away. Don't give your power away to any authority outside of you, whether it be a person in spirit form or even a person in human form. You will hear me say this a lot. You are the authority in your life, not me, not anyone else. So take whatever you feel is valuable for you out of these podcasts and apply it to your life, but don't make me your guru. Be your own guru. Take what you learn and make it yours. Bring it into your life and use it the best way for you. When I was first learning about my spirit guides and learning how to communicate with them, I worked with a teacher, and that was really helpful. So that might be something that you want to consider. It can be great when we have support. And the teacher that I worked with, I saw her individually, and I also attended her group classes. So that was really helpful for me, and it might be something that could be helpful for you as well. Now, over the years, I have got to know many of my spirit guides, and I actually have expanded beyond the 12. I have a collective group of 44 who I've worked with for over 10 years now. And for a while, I kept getting these new guides, and I said to my teacher at one point, "Why do I keep getting all these new guides? How many guides do I need?" And she said, "Oh, honey, you need so many guides because you work with so many individual, air quote, people who have their own individual thoughts." She said crazy, but I didn't want to say that. But we're all a little crazy in our own way, right? So I have a massive team of spirit guides that I work with. Now, not everyone's going to have a team the size that I have because of the work that I do. Again, I need these guides so that I have energy that can relate to many different people's life experiences. But you might just have the 12. And the 12 don't come in and work with us all at once. They come in and they work individually, depending on what's going on in our life. Sometimes you might get 2 or 3 in the room together with you at the same time, but that's not the case generally for most people. So as you move through your life and life changes and you change, your spirit guides sometimes will swap out. So the original 12 that we've come in with may swap out for more advanced guides, or they may just become active as you're working in the particular area of their expertise. Now, I like to know the name of my spirit guides, particularly if I'm working with them one-on-one in a solo situation when I'm not channeling or working on a psychic or mediumship level, when I'm sitting down and doing my own personal work. Now, I've had some students in the past just assign names to their guides, and that's okay. If the guide doesn't like the name or it's not the guide's name, they will find a way to let you know, especially if they don't like the name. I like to meet with them and ask them what is their name, what would they like to be called? Because just like we have an identity that we use in the world, spirit guides also have an identity that they resonate with. If you just pick a name, sometimes they'll just go with it, and sometimes it's correct because you, without even knowing it, intuitively somehow got the name, whether it just dropped in. And I have a friend who gets downloads all the time, and it's interesting because she's so psychic and she doesn't even know it, because it's just part of her everyday. She's never sort of separated the things that drop into her head as being anything other than thoughts that are coming from somewhere, but she doesn't know where they're coming from. That's a psychic download. Your 7th chakra and 6th chakra are wide opened when you're getting those. I want to just give a quick recap and let you know what you can look forward to in our next show. So we talked today, again, we reviewed a little bit about the personality profiles, and we talked a little bit about how to communicate with your spirit guides using oracle cards or pendulum or a dowsing rod. We talked a little bit about how to connect in with them through meditation, and also it's important to ask them for their name, and key to ask them for their help, because spirit guides are not allowed to intercede or jump in on your behalf without your permission. Even if they see that we're in danger, they have to allow our free will. Our free will supersedes their wanting to help. That is different than our guardian angel or our angels who are with us. They can intercede if there's a situation that, say, for example, if you have an accident that could happen and you're not meant to have that accident, you're not meant to leave the planet at that time, your angel team can intercede and jump in, as they did with me a couple of weeks ago, for which I was so grateful, because I was driving down the highway and I was a little distracted, and all of a sudden my attention got called to look forward, and I looked up and I saw this big cloud of dust, and then I saw an explosion in flames, and I realized that there was a car that had gone off the highway and rolled over, was in the median. The craziest thing is the fencing, which is wired at that stretch of the particular highway, bounced the car back into the lane of travel that I was driving in. Now, had I not looked up in that split second, I probably would have hit that car. So that's one way that your angels can intercede, just by making you shift your attention and focus on something that you weren't focused on in the minute. So our next time together, we're going to talk more about angels. I'm excited about that. And I'm going to have a special guest surprise for you. She is an author. She's an angel expert. and I am really excited to be bringing her to you. So you're going to have to tune in for the next show to catch it and see who it is. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. I love and appreciate you. If you're getting value out of this show, please share it with your friends. Talk it up. And remember to consider signing up for my subscribers to get exclusive content only for you. All right. Love y'all. Have a beautiful week. I'll see you somewhere in the universe. Bye for now.
This podcast was produced by Alchemy of the Earth Inc. at CynthiaFontaine.com. Producer Elise Spizak, Media Relations LJ Rank, Director Ryan Fontaine, and Sound Engineer David Breton. Please subscribe to patreon.com/boldlyauthentic for exclusive membership bonuses.